All right. What is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to another live stream here. How are we doing? Let me know if, as usual, if you can see me okay and if you can hear me okay. As we do kick this live stream. Our first live stream in a little bit. It's been a little bit of time since we've gone live on this channel. So, we've got a little bit to discuss. I just want to make sure that we are streaming all okay. And what an impressive Bitcoin chart, huh? Look at this thing. Bitcoin is... hey, look, I did this. What was I trying to show here? Oh, I think I was making the point that probably the most likely situation Bitcoin is going to follow through with is go up to, a nice level, maybe like 120, 150, but then just consolidate and make you hate your life. And it looks like it looks like that's what's going on here, which I find definitely quite funny. So we'll dive into all of that in just a minute here, but thank you all for tuning in. Those of you that have, do me a favor as you're coming in here and smash up those likes, and let me know where you're watching from and how you feel about the market. You feel bullish, bearish? What's the deal? We're at basically more or less a triple top level right now. 109K, basically, standing at the door of 110, which is a pretty nice milestone. No instant rejection from Chris Farrell. Absolutely, mate. Yeah. We here on the hourly, we've hit, arguably quite an important, kind of psychological round number. And we're pretty good, we're not getting set. Now, by the way, that instant rejection that you mentioned we don't have, that can happen if Bitcoin, goes sideways for a second, and then pushes up for a big kind of spike. That can definitely still happen. So don't, it's good that it hasn't happened, but don't assume that we're fully kind of out of the woods. You never really are. But we'll dive into all of that in just a minute here. As you are coming in, guys, let me just make sure that everything's working fine. Give me an audio and visual check. It looks like things are working fine, judging by your comments. Smash up those likes as you are coming in, ladies and gents. And like I said, let me know where you are in the world. We got Anglesey, North Wales here. Let me know where you are in the world and how you feeling. What's up, Bill? How you doing? What's up, Alex? Welcome to the stream. Dave, David. How you guys doing today? Yeah, it's super interesting day, right? We got Slovenia here, Holland. How are you guys feeling about the market? We feeling like, I know that it's kind of bullish, but there's a lot of people talking about, this is a fake rally and it's not going to work and whatnot. I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing a lot of like very, very different opinions. So I want to know, do we believe in this? Do we believe in this rally today, or do we think that actually it's going to be a kind of short-lived pump? Maybe we only slightly. I mean, we're already at an all-time high right now, but maybe we only go slightly higher and then we kind of fall flat on our face again, because that happens a lot. We got Austin and Austin. Absolutely cool. Proud 51st stater. Brilliant. I respect that, man. Big man called himself a 51st stater being in Canada. That is brilliant. Continental Divide, Colorado, USA. What's up? Got a lot of American viewers in the house today. How you guys doing today? The sun is shining very bright on America, isn't it? Let's take a look at the stock market. Nothing really particularly interesting going on here, other than the fact that it was, quite a bullish kind of sequence of trading events for the S&P 500, which led into only, some sort of kind of sideways coiling consolidation rather than, a pullback, which is what I was expecting. Now, with hindsight, I should have known that this was also equally possible. I just completely forgot. Yeah, but if the S&P kind of just continues to do this, rather than kind of pulling back down, that's still going to count as a pretty healthy reversal for the market, or I should say continuation consolidation pattern, and that can definitely enable the S&P 500 to get a little bit higher, and you're really not particularly far at all from the all-time highs, 3.4% there. So very, very cool indeed. We got Hungary, more Colorado, Scotland. Capo said Black Swan. I mean, Capo's a smart guy, but you know, being smart is not enough in these markets. You know, I was speaking to a friend about this on the phone last night about, you know, there's a lot of people that you can speak to that have really good, strong, solid knowledge of, you know, particular types of technical analysis and so on. And that's great, right? Like it's cool to know that, and it's complicated. It takes time to learn, and yes, indeed, you can make, you know, good amounts of money if you trade like that. The problem with pretty much all of these people that do it is they have so much tunnel vision on what they do that they cannot get the macro picture right. I can't tell you the amount of people that are good day traders, or at least competent day traders, who completely fucked up everything that happened here in the last few months. And I'm not surprised for as to how or why that happened, okay? That's exactly what I would have expected from those people, because yes, while you're good at doing your super narrow kind of skill set, you know, when we're talking about you know, macro market moves, if your analysis is not grounded in that first and foremost, then you're always, you know, you might have really good accuracy when you're shooting a gun, for example, but you're always shooting in the wrong direction. So your effective shot count will still be 0. That's actually why you see that most day traders do not end up making money in the long run. They will just give it back. You know, they will make money and they will give it back, and it's a never ending. And they're also, like, a lot of them have some sort of gambling tendencies. It's really complex. Like I said, I've worked with a lot of traders over the years. You know, and obviously me myself, I've been, you know, kind of at every, you know, like, level of the spectrum, you know, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I kind of done it. I mean, I've kind of done it all and made all the mistakes. So, you know, like, I've really seen it. If you guys want to, you know, get inside, and, you know, we've got a super cool offer for you, where there's some pretty, there's a pretty intense 12-week program we've got here. It's literally just, you know, 1-to-1. If you want to get inside, we've had incredible results. You can reach out by following this link in the description. It is expensive, and it is very serious. I don't want people who are not serious about their journey here. But, you know, if it sounds like something that's interesting to you, then definitely reach out. Ladies and gents, we're about to start really kicking this live stream off. But, yeah, do me a favor and smash those likes up. Shout out to Troll Kings in the live chat. Do me a favor and smash those likes up as we are just kind of warming this thing up. And let me know how you feel about the market. Let me know if you feel like this is it. We're going up to 120, 130. Or do you feel like this is a fake out and we're not going substantially higher than this? I want to know what you guys think before I start telling you what I think. Because otherwise, I'm going to be influencing your answers. And I don't want to influence anybody's answers. But while we wait for those comments to roll in, you know, I mean, this is quite a spectacular market setup right now. You know, I've broken this down a couple of times here on this YouTube channel. The numbers are so low, institutions are taking it over. Most retail I talked to back in January and December are broke now. It's 100% true. Yeah. A lot of retail is pretty fucked right now. Nick is saying that all the bears keep short in this rise. You can see it in order flow. This will push. I mean, there were a shitload of liquidations actually in the last like 2 hours, which I think is really interesting. We got Sheila from Houston, Texas saying, I don't believe in this rally. I'm looking for a higher low and higher high after that, so still bullish. That's really interesting. There's a couple of people talking about that. I'd love to know, you know, where you think this could go if that happens. You know, if you think that we're going to be going for a higher low and stuff like that. Are we, you know, are you talking about that, you know, like we bottom at like 80 or like a more significant macro low, like maybe 60 or 70? You know, because that still, it depends on what you define as macro, right? But that'd be very, and why do you think so as well? You know, for me, I think one of the big things for me, and this is not scientific at all, but you know, one of the big things for me is just that, you know, there's been enough suffering. I mean, you know, I want to point this out because I think as market participants, we get like we get major tunnel vision with what we're seeing, and we really start to kind of act like certain things are happening that, I don't know, they might not be happening, but we will really feel that way because we've just been absolutely fucked about in the market for too long, right? And we're just like feeling shit about it. So I feel like that happens a lot, and one of the things that kind of results in is people kind of losing. I'm not saying this is you, by the way, Sheila. Is people kind of lose perspective of what enough looks like as far as market pullbacks and so on, like that. So, one of the things that's really interesting here that we can kind of point out is, if we take a couple of info lines and just kind of start to appreciate, what we're seeing here. We've got, some pretty significant, kind of sideways ranges here that Bitcoin has had. I mean, this one here lasted 214 days. We'll just draw them from below. This one here lasted 214 days, whatever. It's going to change a little bit depending on how you draw it. And I'm talking about from when you enter the range to when you exit the range. This one lasted 246. And we haven't fully even left this range yet, but, we're up to about, 200 days on this one. So, my point with kind of showing this to you is that, we haven't actually done anything surprising, like just this, just earlier today, I had one of my favorite, and I do have favorites, one of my favorite members of the team, telling me that I got everything right in this market, right? And I was the only one that read the Trump tariff situation properly and so on. And truthfully, the first thing I'll say on that is, and I don't know if you're watching this, bro, but if you are, because I didn't actually properly respond to you, I didn't do anything particularly impressive, and you know it. All I did was I didn't believe the hype, and I didn't pay attention to what the mainstream media had to say, because what the fuck do they know? They're all a bunch of fucking idiots. They cannot get anything right ever. And I just followed the money, bro. I just followed the money, and I looked at the numbers, and we had, we were due for a retracement, and then we pulled off a retracement, and it was a quick, sharp retracement, and like the whole world is not turning their back on America, bro. It's not fucking happening. This is a fucking wet dream of European fanatics or Chinese people or what, I don't fucking know. But like it's not happening. It's just a silly ambition that a few deluded people have, and all of these people that hold these positions are fucking powerless anyway in the global stage. So I don't know why you would listen to them in the first place. So I think that's a really, really big deal, because then that means that any crying that happens afterwards on the politics side is completely meaningless. Everyone knows he's a GOAT. Thank you very much, bro. Nice to see you in the live stream here. Smash up the likes as you are tuning in today, ladies and gents. Lewis saying, damn, Sammy, you called it about 3 months ago. You said at the end of May that we would be at 110K. You fucking warlock, you. Dude, thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's what I'm talking about, ladies and gents. We're keeping it really, really simple. Everybody else has a lot to say and a lot of kind of, I don't know, lines to draw or whatever. Me, look, like I said, I didn't do anything special. I literally just noticed that we're having absurdly long periods of consolidation after absurdly large, kind of price jumps, right? I mean, this was a 200% from low to high, and this was 120% from low to high, and this itself was 100% from low to high, okay? So all I'm saying is that we double, maybe we triple, and then we go sideways for 200 days. I mean, I hope that doesn't continue, because it's really shit, but at least it's easy to read, right? I mean, what went wrong with people. And by the way, I wouldn't have gotten this if this happened 5 years ago or something like that. Let's be very clear, right? Like I'm able to have said this to you with so much confidence throughout this entire time period, only because I've been trading for over 8 years. I feel like that's a really big part of it, because now I do not have patience for impatience. It's a funny one, right? But I cannot tolerate impatience anymore, because it's so fucking reckless. And really just understanding the super basics here of like, you're going to get thrashed about. And this is what I said earlier on in the live stream. We have kicked this off really diving into the deep end of, trader psychology. What I mentioned earlier on in the live stream is that a lot of people who trade, the shorter term moves, they'll never be able to kind of have a good perspective of what's happening on a macro scale because they're so tunnel vision, and you can't avoid it, right? Like, you could tell me that you're a day trader and you analyze the macro first, but most people who do it, they're not going to be able to do it properly. You just don't see it. You don't see successful traders staying as day traders. You're a day trader because you're desperate to make money, because you think if you click more buttons, you make more money. That's usually how it goes. There are exceptions, but you're not smart for pointing them out. And so what happens is when you're doing that and you're getting caught in all of these ebbs and flows, and, literally a, 7-month sideways trading range, where nothing is happening, but, you're living in this and this and this and this constant whiplash, and you're only seeing it on the hourly time frame or something, you're not going to have a realistic chance of understanding what's happening on this market. And especially, you're not going to have a realistic chance of kind of maintaining a realistic perspective of the fact that, we're going up and we're consolidating and that's it, right? Like, if it happened on the hourly, you would see it. But if it's happening on the monthly or the weekly or the daily, pardon me, then you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it because you got too much tunnel vision, and that's going to be one of the bigger problems that people in this space are really experiencing here. But obviously, if you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, then thankfully that is not going to be your problem. GeoRider is saying maybe, but he's saying maybe I should have bought more. Yeah, potentially, but I mean, we're always going to have that regret, aren't we? So Coinbase all-time high alert just went out. There you go, Christopher. That is very, very good news. Nick is saying they're shorting again. Bullish divergence. Let's push 112. I don't think shorts are going to work right now. We'll see. I mean, we are stalling a little bit, but I mean, shit. Like, we just broke the all-time high and we consolidated before it. So, I mean, this is, probably set up pretty well for us right now. New all-time high. Hopefully Curbs returns. Oh my god, hopefully, right? Hopefully. Let's see, that would be cool. History is being written. Dollar dominance will come down by 2030. Obviously, there are going to be two sides to the coin. Let's see who wins. Regardless, we're all going to make money. Best of luck for that. I completely agree on the second part. We're all making money no matter what happens. I really feel that to be true. As for something competing with the dollar, okay, I mean, maybe it's China, maybe it's Russia, I don't know, I feel like these are laughable countries, but, yeah, whatever, I know that there are people who, as a career want to bash on the United States, but that's not really working out too well for you, if that's been your approach. Sammy, the OGs, know this space always gives you what you least expect. That is very true, Christopher, that is very, very true. Anyone else as concerned as I am with the Fed buying their own treasuries, the risk of flying yields, no one on Wall Street wanting to touch debt right now? I haven't looked at stuff like that, and I've got some pretty, kind of colorful opinions on those topics, but basically what they boil down to is I just want to look at what's on the chart, because what I find is that a lot of people are kind of intellectual, or at least, just genuinely very interested in what's going on. And so they kind of do a lot of like secondary, tertiary reading, which makes sense. I think that's a smart idea. But again, after, 8 years of doing this, the GOAT Buffett said, bet against the American economy. Good luck. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a pretty stupid thing to do. You don't bet against the U.S. economy. That's like you're betting against the most innovative country in the world. No, that like good luck, mate. Yeah, that's not gonna work for you. But yeah, no, it's basically the idea that a lot of people, they enter these kind of intellectual pursuits of more information, more CPI data, more Jerome Powell, whatever, and now it's treasuries and whatnot. I don't think any of these things are important. I think that they're all secondary, tertiary data points to Bitcoin and the S&P 500, which are the only two things. And the reason these are important is because, it's like, what are you trading, right? Like, you're not trading bonds. So you can look at them and get an idea of how they might impact the rest of the markets. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think that a lot of people kind of make that style of analysis work for them. What I'm saying is that you don't need to do it. You don't need to complicate things. You don't need to look at outside data sources. when you've got honestly quite clear charts in front of you, right? Because in the same vein of this kind of 200-day analysis that I just did with you guys, the other big thing that I did with you guys constantly is, you know, just kind of looking at these percentage moves from kind of low to high, and we're looking more or less at 15% each time this thing rallies, right? So 15% and then you pause, 15% and then you pause, 15% and then you pause, and now we're breaking out again. So, you know, if we're trying to extrapolate targets, that's going to give us potentially what's 15%? Potentially $115,000 Bitcoin. So pretty cool stuff, right? I mean, you know, and it's like totally reasonable that happens because, you know, that's just kind of what this market's done. Obviously, you know, we need to have some, you know, more substantial corrections. We haven't really had any sort of a substantial correction since this low down here at 75, but that's not a deal breaker for me because of the kind of, you know, suffering, like I said, and I want to hone in on that just for a second here. You know, this perspective that we need to kind of, you know, come lower. What about a pullback to 95? Yeah, we can discuss that as well in just a minute. We haven't actually looked at any kind of, you know, more intricate, you know, analysis at this stage, but you know, what I want to discuss with you guys just for a second here is, you know, just the idea here that Bitcoin has, you know, I mean, it's punished us for a long time, right? I mean, you know, from this high down to, for example, this low, that's a 17%, but then you're getting that whiplash up and down, and you're kind of, you know, just losing money no matter what you do, and then you're breaking structure, and, you know, now you're down by 32%, and everybody thinks that the market is dead, and it's been over like 4 months. You're nearly at 5 months since you've entered this range, maybe even more depending on how you draw it, and then, you know, by month fucking, what is this, like 8, 9, basically, like approaching month 9, you're still not even out of it. Like, it's just a lot of trauma that market participants have felt. That happened here, that happened here, that happened with this fake out over here, and this fake out up top over here, and it definitely very much happened with this move right here where we kind of broke this market structure. So, like, it's just a lot that the market has kind of gone through, and I'm not saying that, you know, there's a particular, you know, sort of upper limit of pain that the market needs to experience before we go up or down. Like, that's not what I'm saying, although there probably is. You know, but what I am saying is that at some point it's like, okay, but the story makes sense now, right? Like, if we started to change gears now and we actually started to go up and aggressively set all-time highs, that perspective makes sense at this stage, right? It's not something that's particularly out there or hard to believe in any way. And I think that makes it a lot easier to kind of stomach the idea now that Bitcoin can actually have some more kind of blue sky breakouts. Guys, I don't know what's going on with this algorithm. I need you to smash those likes up so we can keep this thing going. Let's get this thing above 100 likes for sure. See if we can push this stream out to more people. I don't know why YouTube does this. It might be because we don't live stream often on this channel, right? Like, that would honestly, you know, explain a lot of it. But whatever it is, I wanna do this more often. So so that would be super cool. Hopefully we have the price action for it, right? Ultimately, that's what I'm waiting for. If we got a price action, I'm always here. But if we don't, then, you know, there's almost no point in streaming. But thanks for smashing them up. Yeah, let's push this thing over 100 as we continue on here. But to really kick this off now, the Bitcoin analysis here looks to me like this. Look, we've consolidated very well on the way up, and we consolidated right before the pop, and now we have the pop. It's happening while the S&P 500 is in a super stable, good place. Now, as long as the S&P doesn't drop below kind of 5,800, we're good, and we're still very much in all-time high territory, and that's going to make it quite a bit easier to you know, kind of get above that all-time high. All we need now is another kind of nice flashy news event, and that's it. We're kind of off and ready to go. So I'm definitely appreciating that. Now, if things start to go sour for Bitcoin, obviously, you know, the support is a little bit thinner up here. There's not, you know, as much that we have to work with. So that's something that we've got to keep in mind. But it's not horrible by any stretch. I mean, you know, there is obviously this range right here that we've just left. We're going to start throwing some indicators on in a second, and we'll be able to get a kind of you know, better perspective of all of this. But mowing the lawn and listening to Sammy, that is amazing. Very cool. I'm glad that you can hear me over your lawnmower. But yeah, so some nice support right here, right? And that's looking like kind of 103. But if Bitcoin fails that, which I think it will, if it ends up kind of tumbling down, I don't really think that this is going to support Bitcoin. Then obviously, one of our viewers already mentioned that we're potentially looking at 95K, and that's probably going to be the best zone of support for Bitcoin at this stage. Obviously, I would personally prefer to start throwing some fib retracements on this chart, but we don't really know where we've topped, right? Like I mean, this could be the top, but we haven't moved low enough to kind of tell us that it's a top. So I don't really want to start talking about, fib retracements too much. But as it stands, which is pretty normal, they are at good levels. So, that's at least, I don't know. It counts for what it counts for. I don't think it's a big deal, but it's something. And it's something that's kind of worth looking at later on. But yeah, as far as kind of bounce zones go, obviously, this is, quite a well-proven kind of zone on the chart at this stage. It serves the support and resistance a lot, with a lot of consistency and a lot of reliability. So, I definitely think that this would be one of the better places for Bitcoin to retrace down to. And I wouldn't find it to be bearish if it happened. I don't think that there is anything telling me that it's going to happen right now, but we don't need something to tell me it's going to happen. The market will move if it wants to move, and we really need to keep that in mind, right? Like, this is not going to move based on your feelings or your expectations or how invested you are in a coin or not invested or whatever. None of this is really dependent on you or what you think. And so, we shouldn't kind of say, well, I don't really see a reason for it to happen, so it won't happen. Like, no, it's within striking distance as far as a drop goes for Bitcoin. It's 12%, which is, super, super digestible. And it's a really strong zone of support. So actually, I would welcome it. It'll definitely mean that we can, move onwards to higher all-time highs quickly. Obviously, the point of control sits right here as well, so huge confluence coming in at this price level, by the way, which, the point of control itself was sitting at about kind of 96.5. But, this level is going to be stretching all the way down to, 95.5, 95, whatever you want to call it, all the way up to, I would say, about 97. So that's going to be an interesting level for Bitcoin. Obviously, if Bitcoin gets lower than this, then, we're kind of back at the bottom of this sideways range, which I'll draw for you a little bit more clearly on a different chart. It looks like if I go ahead and get a kind of parallel channel tool, we're probably looking at a sideways channel that, that's probably what it is, right? So, we're obviously going to be kind of, falling back down to the bottom of this range if we lose this midpoint, which is 95. But that's not the end of the world either. It just would mean that, I mean, look, we've got to visualize this area, like this entire blue box, which stretches from 90 basically to 100. We've got to imagine it as a big zone of support, because that's what it is, right? We just showed you, on the VPVR. If I stretch this even further back, the point of control is still here, right? Like, all of these spikes happen inside of this blue box here that I've drawn. So we've just got to imagine that this is a big zone of support for Bitcoin. And what that means is, like, if we're coming down and we kind of front run the level, then we're doing what we did here, where we kind of front ran the 72 level. We didn't quite come down, and then, it was just lift off from there, right? And it was really bullish. So, that's one way that we can interact with the support level, which is that we don't actually really interact with it. We just kind of front run it. But that's super normal, and that's going to be a sign of a very aggressive bull market. Now you can penetrate it too, right? You can drop down to it and bounce off. That's also great. It would signify that you're strong. But you can penetrate it. That's totally fine by me too. You can even fuck about for a little bit and come back up. That's cool too. But we can start to see how the picture changes, right? Like, if you're coming back down to the bottom of the range and then you bounce up, it's very different to if you bounced off over here. Now, they're both good and they're both welcome. They're both healthy. But what would be different is, it's basically this element of, like, well, why? Like, why were you, not strong enough to the point where you couldn't bounce off here, and instead you had to bounce off here? Like, what does that mean? What does that indicate? And more importantly, whose court does that put the ball in? Whose side of the court? Because, when the bears get a chance to, take the market lower, which they will do if the market comes here, they can then decide, okay, we're going to short the shit out of Bitcoin if it gets up to 95, or we're going to short the shit out of Bitcoin if it gets up to 100, and all of a sudden you're back in a bear market, right? That's obviously what happened back here, where we did get a really nice pullback, but the bears rejected it, you know, and they ended up kind of selling into this high, and that's how we kind of tumbled lower. So, you know, it's a really important way to view the markets, right? That like nothing is set in stone, and you know, it really can be influenced by, you know, a whale or manipulation or whatever you want to call it, or just prevailing market sentiment. You know, that whatever situation you're in, especially at reversal points, it could actually get a lot worse or a lot better. And it really just depends on, you know, which group, be it the bears or the bulls, steps in at that time. Let's go through the live chat here for just a second. So close, by the way, to 100 likes. So if you haven't already smashed them up and you find this live stream useful, definitely go ahead and smash them up here. But Lord, I mean, saying I missed the Don Crypto Kirby. Yeah, man, it's painful. I miss him too. Tin Man, smash the likes, folks. Thank you very, very much. Isn't stablecoin legislation coming out today? It should push higher on that too. Yeah, it could do. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter to me. Hi, Sammy. I'm excited. Oh my god, that's not good English. I'm excited in the crypto market. I think it was a typo. Bit by bit. Is it too soon or not? Oh, dude, you gotta rewrite that. Yeah, you already knew, dude. Yeah, we're here live. Bitcoin just set a brand new all-time high. You already know the deal. We're not gonna miss that. So definitely a very, very exciting time here indeed. But yeah, like I said, you know, kind of where you fall into that support zone, we'll tell you a little bit about, you know, who's in charge in the market and who could be in charge. So, you know, like I said, support all the way down. I mean, realistically, you know, for me, like I said, I'll tolerate a 40% drop, right? I've been very vocal about this. I'll always tolerate a 40% drop because to me, that's kind of, you know, it's like super. Actually, Bitcoin will do more than a 40% drop inside of a bull market. So, you know, that's definitely not how it works. But, you know, there are still, you know, lines that I'll draw. So, you know, for me, 40% is that line. And obviously, that's why I couldn't get scared of this stuff that happened over here, because it's like, well, we're only down by 32%. We've still got a little bit more headroom to go until this gets concerning. And it was the same thing for the S&P 500, right? It had dropped down by 10%, and everybody was dick riding that Trump is a bad guy, a bad president kind of, you know, philosophy. And I totally understand why people said that, but I also don't think that it was particularly difficult to rise above it and get, you know, your head straight again and, and understand that you're just regurgitating, you know, very carefully choreographed media narratives rather than having any sense of free thinking on your own, which is what most people did. If you got this wrong, you know, let's be real, ladies and gents. We gotta be really real. You're here on this channel for a reason, all right? You're not watching some dickhead that's gonna tell you that all of your altcoins are going up by 1,000x. You're watching Mr. Loyal, ladies and gents. And let's be real. If you got this wrong, then you're not good at what you're doing. It's just that simple. I mean, you know, the previous all-time high for the S&P 500 was January of 2022, and it was an untested all-time high, and then we got overextended after this rally. I mean, look at this. We had a beautiful rally from 3,500 right here. It took the S&P 500 up by 31% until we had a nice correction here of 10%. But since then, we got this correction here. This was 10%, so that was one. But it was very quick, right? This correction lasted only about 2 weeks. This correction, meanwhile, lasted 3 months. So as far as corrections go, yeah, we had the same price-based correction. But as far as time, it was way longer. And that hurts more. It's a more significant correction if it takes longer to play out. So the S&P 500 hadn't pulled off a significant correction in a long time. Now, none of this is stuff that I'm saying for the first time. These are things that I had spoken about a lot right here on this YouTube channel for subscribers to have heard and known about. Now, the kicker and the really, really big deal here that I think we need to just step back and appreciate, because this is going to influence how we operate moving forward, is that the S&P 500 had managed from this point to rally very high, up by 50% without having what I'm calling a significant correction. So, of course, we were due for a bigger correction. And with Trump just taking office and shaking stuff up, what better time? Like, if I told you Trump, a lot of you guys probably had this theory that Trump wins the office and then he crashes the market quickly to, reset a couple of things and then gets things back going. Like, that was actually a theory that even a couple of my friends had, right? Like, it wasn't a particularly difficult theory. All you have to do is be like a bit edgy, like worst case scenario, the lowest common denominator is that you just need to be a little bit edgy with your financial theories, and you would have been correct about this. But you don't even need to get weird about it, like all you need to do is understand that this market, this index had not had a significant correction for a while, and now we've started one, and this is an obvious bounce zone. And my point is that if you missed this, you're way too emotional in this market. Like, you're way too unplugged in terms of reality. You're probably listening to a bunch of dickheads that don't know any better. And if at this stage you keep doing it, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say. I mean, if you've come this far and you still haven't worked out that absolutely everybody that you listen to talking about these markets has their head stuck so far up their ass that they couldn't even see that this is just a standard retrace. I mean, like I said, if this happened under Biden, nobody would be questioning this. Everybody would be over the moon while it's happening. Even I'm exaggerating a bit now, that the S&P 500 is back testing a really important level. And my point is that if you couldn't see that, then you missed the most important and most obvious SR flip of this market cycle so far, and you missed it because of politics. Oh man. Yeah, I would hang my head in shame if that were me. It's not even about that, right? Like, ultimately what it's about is don't repeat these mistakes, right? Like, if that's you, then you need to consider unplugging from your shitty sources of information. You can stay locked to this channel, or better yet, you can watch nobody and listen to nobody and read nobody and just watch the markets as if they're happening 20 years ago, so you don't get too attached to what's happening right now. Maybe you have to take some money out of the market because you're overly, emotional about it. That's totally possible too. But, here we are with Bitcoin's dominance moving up again. I thought it would get lower before it moved up, but obviously it's like I've been saying constantly, if Bitcoin steals the show and starts rallying, then that's going to be what sets this Bitcoin dominance chart off again. And that's exactly what happened. So no surprises there as well. We are seeing a very small pullback here, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually put the super short time frame chart here on the side, just so we can kind of watch what's going on here as far as this dump. And so far, losing a little bit of market structure here on the minute time frame. So we'll just kind of continue to watch this and see how this plays out on the right hand side of the screen. If you are enjoying the stream so far, definitely make sure to smash them up. We got Neelanch saying that the bleeding has started. I think that's a little bit premature, but okay. Well, let's see who we got here in the chat. Shout out to Jeremy. Where is the bearable bull? Loved his videos. I've never heard of that guy. Let's see what else we got here. Sammy is a genius. Thank you very, very much. When do I think will be the altcoin season? I don't know, but probably, when Bitcoin tops out. No, not when Bitcoin tops out, but I think, for me, I'm expecting alt season to start like above 120k Bitcoin. I think that Bitcoin is going to have to, run up again. And it's hard to say when it starts. It's going to start whenever we're, kind of a little bit more than halfway through the bull market. That's usually how it goes. I don't know if that's how it's going to go this time, but that's usually how it goes. So that's what I'd be. I think we're close. I think we're close to the start of alt season, maybe like 6 months away max. Alt season is going to make us so rich from DJ Kickflip. Absolutely. I think alt season is going to be the real opportunity to make a lot of money. And I'm very glad that I haven't, gone deep into it in any way yet. This dump is intensifying here, but it's very misleading because because it's literally dropped by 2%. And at that it's dropped by about $2,000. And this is at 100, from 110. So really not a big pullback yet, but it does look dramatic given that we're dropping pretty hard. Lewis is saying that Sammy is a time traveler from the future, came back to school as. Thank you, Sammy. You're very, very welcome, sir. I mean, look, all of these ideas are fun to play with, but again, I really have to maintain my position that I'm not actually doing anything particularly special. I'm just keeping it simple, right? I'm doing analysis the same way that the books taught me to do my analysis. I'm just not getting my emotions involved. That's really the big difference. Obviously, everybody thinks they're a big guy, and then they enter the trading space and they realize that they're way more emotional and in way less control of their emotions than they thought. And as long as you can kind of get over that, you will be making money in these markets. So we're sitting at 107.5 right now for BTC. If we open this chart up a little bit more and kind of appreciate what this chart is showing us, this is turning into a little bit more of a sizable correction now, but our support zone is basically going to be starting around here, right? This is where we had a couple of rejections for Bitcoin over the last couple of days, and so this is definitely where I think I'd be expecting the first round of kind of potential support to come in for Bitcoin here. So that's going to be interesting to kind of keep an eye out for. Solana is interesting. Yeah, we'll take a look at some of those altcoins here in just a minute. You got Chris Profit saying that alt season isn't happening. That's the spirit. That's what I want to see. I want to see people, if you see the spirit of people getting broken, saying stuff like literally like everything that happened, like if something has happened 100% of the time before, but people are acting like it's not going to happen now because the situation is just really bad, that's the kind of spirit we're looking for, because that tells you that we're kind of close to the end, right? Like when enough of those people give up and they sell their altcoins, guess who they're selling them to? You know what I mean? Like they're selling them to the people that, are going to dump at the top. Maybe we should have some kind of news around the weekend so that it dumps even further. I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. It'll happen if it wants to happen. I thought it would happen last weekend, and it didn't really happen last weekend. I thought actually altcoins would go up because it just looked like a good setup, but it just didn't happen. I think a lot of other people were expecting it. XRP BTC is about to lose important support. That's a big deal. So we'll take a look at that. Let's move this chart back onto the minute time frame and zoom out a little bit. We can just keep on watching this like degenerates on the side, and we'll put the XRP chart on here now. And yeah, it's really not it's really not looking too good. I wouldn't say that this is a deal breaker. This is probably a level that a couple of bulls are probably going to be looking to buy. And the reason I'm saying that is, yeah, even though it looks weak, even though I don't like the fact that, we've returned down to this level too many times, and it definitely indicates that a drop is possible, it is just a really strong level of support. And I think it represents more, right? Like it's more than just XRP losing a level. If XRP loses this, then, that's going to start, making people look at their, ongoing legal dramas and whatnot that they've been having more or less constantly for the last, 7 years. But I think that that makes it somewhat unlikely that we lose this level, but I wouldn't bank on that. That's not good enough to kind of say that we're not losing this level. But for sure, if it does end up dropping, it's gonna probably start painting some really interesting kind of buys. What's probably much more interesting than that is going to be dominance, and it looks like, let's just zoom in and see what dominance is doing. Yeah, so dominance was spiking up just a couple of minutes ago, and now it's coming back down, but for the most part, it does look like it's kind of rising in the face of this uncertainty right now. So obviously, yeah, a little bit of an S&P 500 dump that a couple of people are talking about, but I mean, what's the big deal here? You've got, a ton of support right here. This is obviously a pretty well-proven level as far as, an S&P support level can be well-proven, considering that it's this close to the all-time high. It's a pretty good level. It's the best level we've got, and we're just falling into it right now. So obviously, while everybody else is looking at the drop saying this is going to go on forever, Four Flies, what we're going to be doing is looking at this drop and saying, look, it's a support level. So God forbid, maybe we expect a bit of support instead of losing our minds. That's going to be, probably the perspective that you'll find me entertaining a little bit more. Shout out to Alex saying he loves or she loves my TA from Boston. Thank you very, very much. Jeremy Clifton saying, yeah, this is not a real correction. Of course not. No, this is very transient so far. I haven't sold anything, but I'm getting bloody bored of waiting. I know, right? Me too. I'm getting bored of waiting too. But hey, that's part of the game. We're not allowed to, make decisions out of boredom. That's not how this works either. Alts are about to get wrecked again. They might. Selling XRP now would be suicide. I don't think selling XRP right now is a smart idea. Yeah, I think holders are probably in a pretty good position. You know, it depend. I don't know. It doesn't even depend on where you bought it from, right? Because that doesn't influence where the market goes in the future. But, yeah, I think definitely. Yeah, we got 106.8 right now, dropping lower and lower. So yeah, definitely this is a rejection now. I think at this stage, this is, you know, we're now down by yeah, 2.5. Yeah, it's sizing up. I mean, it's the fact that it's quick. We said this at the very beginning of the live stream, right? One of our viewers said that, you know, it's nice that we didn't get a quick rejection, but I basically said, look, we can pop a little bit higher and then get that, and that is exactly what happens. So let me know in the live chat if you remember when I said that. That was literally like right at the beginning of the live stream that we were talking about that idea. So that's pretty impressive. But we'll bring it back to the kind of more macro picture for Bitcoin here, and, you know, just kind of taking a step back to kind of appreciate what this zone tells us. You know, there's a ton of support, you know, that we can kind of experience over here at about kind of 105. So, like I said, the first kind of bit of support starts here, and if that doesn't work out, there's a lot, you know, down at like 104 or so. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Liquidity grab to 105, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know if it's a liquidity grab, you know, that's not really for me to determine here, but you know, it's clearly, you know, a sharp drop of some sort, and it is clearly going to be pulling liquidity for somebody. So you know, I mean, obviously there's going to be, you know, some late longs entering, right, and those longs are getting liquidated now. That's probably why we're moving down so quickly. We've got a couple of comments on altcoins, and here is Solana. I'm very interested in Solana. I think that it's looking pretty good. I like that it's now started to form a different chart pattern, right? Like, I mean, whatever happened here is a bit weird, but if we just kind of broadly ignore, you know, the inconsistencies, what we have is a kind of descending channel in the works now. And I mean, look, it's really not perfect, so I'm going to remove this drawing, but you know, it does potentially indicate right here that, you know, we could be looking at you know, some kind of continued slow downside, but maybe only until we capture some really nice support, and then, you know, off to the races. I don't know. That's quite a complex market structure for Solana. Solana doesn't usually do things that are, you know, particularly complex like that. But, pardon me. But I do think that, you know, given that we've already done it, you know, that's going to kind of increase the chances that we could do it again. With you know, we've had a couple of comments on just now in the live stream, is looking pretty interesting. You know, there is some macro resistance here, and it's rallied up massively into this level. I wouldn't say that this chart looks as good as other people think it looks. I don't really know what people like about this chart. It looks quite overextended to me, but it did fall down by 28% to its recent low, so I guess that is important. I don't really see any particular setups on this chart, though, personally, because of how, you know, high it's gone, without, you know, a more kind of significant, you know, like 50% or 30% or 40% kind of pullback. Not that it needs them, but, you know, it is something that kind of helps me be okay with these coins. But, yeah, let's take a look at Matic. I know that Matic was looking really interesting, but I don't know, it feels like I made that up now because it doesn't look that interesting, so I must be reading this wrong. There was a really interesting setup here. I'll see if I can find it. It's actually a member of my team that gave it to me. How much more time are alts going to waste? 4 more years? Yeah, I don't know, but like I said, that's the attitude we're looking for, so I don't think that we got too long left, you know, for altcoins to start kind of reversing and doing well. Here's Ethereum, you know, just kind of falling out of its resistance zone, but still, I mean, very much poised to keep moving up. I mean, this is not an invalidation by any stretch. I think that this can, you know, definitely, you know, maybe it has to fall down to what is this, 0.2 BTC per token, but it's not even necessary. I mean, you know, it can, you know, all it needs is Bitcoin to just kind of give it a little bit of a chance to move. And then what happened to the treadmill? I'm staring at it. I need to bring it back. I will bring it back, don't worry about that, but it's just not here right now. Yeah. Let me know if you got any more questions, any more kind of queries you want me to cover right here in this live stream. Let's take a look at a couple other coins. We got Doge right here also doing it. It looks like all of these coins are not in particularly interesting places, or places that are kind of like even worth looking at right now. So I am not that interested in them. I feel like they're kind of they're just going to be waiting to see what, you know, Bitcoin does. Yeah, here's the start of a potential bounce for the S&P 500, and there's still going to be 2.5 hours left here. So for this day's trading session, how difficult was it? I do not have citizenship in the UAE. You cannot get citizenship in the UAE. I mean, you can, but it's exceedingly difficult. But getting a visa is extremely easy, and I can get anybody set up if you guys want to if you guys want to move to the UAE. Obviously, you know, one of the best countries in the world, very, very safe, not crazy, not ridiculous as far as, you know, I don't know, like all of the weird like gender issues that have started to crop up in the West, like that doesn't happen. Your kids will be safe. There's a lot of upsides. If you want to get in, then you can just reach out to me directly on Instagram or Twitter, and I can get you set up. I've set up a couple of really big people whose names that you've heard as well, in Dubai. So really, really good place to be, I think, in the world. And if you guys want to do, if you guys do want to get set up, then definitely let me know. Flying taxis? No, sir. No flying taxis. And I haven't been in any sort of flying taxi as a result. No. Do I recommend buying alts now? Hell no, dude. I don't recommend anything. You're in the wrong place. I'm not here to give you recommendations on, you know, no. You go somewhere else if you want financial advice. I am here to build you into the best version of yourself as a trader. That's all I'm interested in. If you don't like that mission, then you know, that's okay. It's not really gonna appeal to that many people because it requires work and effort, but it is at least a guaranteed path to making money. So you know, I think that, you know, having a kind of guarantee in this crypto journey is very nice, because we stand to make nice returns anyway. So you know, if you can just do it right, then you might get paid really well. So that's why obviously you guys are a really, really good spot, those of you that watch this channel regularly, because you're getting, you know, pretty nicely red pilled on pretty important topics here in the crypto space. So I think that's important. But yeah, ladies and gents, I'm probably going to be looking to wrap this live stream up soon here. If we have any more questions, let me know. And yeah, I'll definitely, you know, kind of be back whenever there's going to be a little bit more, you know, kind of volatility in these markets to exploit. But, you know, as of right now, Bitcoin's, you know, just pulling back a little bit. It's got support, like I said, you know, down here at like 105 down to, you know, kind of 102. Its first little tiny support starts here. So if we bounce off this, we're probably going quite high today, or for what remains of today. There's not long left. You know, and obviously, you know, if it falls lower, then I think that we're just in an even better position. And really, it looks to me like this is dependent on the S&P 500. So, you know, maybe Trump comes out with an announcement later today or tomorrow, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Full say, you're the man, Sammy. Thanks for the knowledge and the timely updates. You're very, very welcome, sir. You already know the deal. Thank you for tuning in. It is my absolute pleasure. Love from Bangladesh. Thank you very, very much. I love Bengalis. I've met some very, very nice Bengalis in England. 95 to 96k is good support, but won't be surprised if it goes all the way to 82 and then bounce. I mean, look, the idea of a deeper pullback makes sense. You know, I can understand why people are saying that. I just feel like that boat has sailed now, and I think that more importantly, if it does end up happening, that Bitcoin does something like this, like that then means that we had a triple top. And it's, you know, my point is, like, we can sit really comfortable up here and be like, yeah, Bitcoin's coming here and then we're going up to 120. You can say that, but like when this thing comes down, you're not going to feel that way anymore, you know? And that's how it always goes. But the other big thing, and I should have said this at the beginning, is that, you know, Bitcoin right now, if it tops, it will have painted a triple top, and Bitcoin doesn't do triple tops, right? That's just not something that you really see on these charts. And I think that's an important kind of, you know, first fact to ground ourselves with. You know, like here's a kind of double. It depends on how you define it, right? Like if you're getting really granular about it, then, you know, instead of a triple top, we probably had like an 8x top. You know what I mean? Like it depends on how you define it. But you know, as far as kind of macro, you know, separate macro moves go, there's one here and there's one here. You know what I mean? Like that's really kind of all we're getting. You know, here we had 20K and then a double top that, you know, it wasn't even the double top. It ended up popping, right? So it's just not something that Bitcoin typically does. And you know, we don't have to, you know, like just see shapes and that's it, right? Like we can also just try and understand what the shapes mean. You know, if the triple top is happening here, and Bitcoin is pushing, then you know what that's telling us, you know, if we kind of read between the lines, is that, you know, Bitcoin has a lot of strength, right? And that strength, you know, means that even though the market has tried very hard to send us lower, it's not able to do it, and we keep coming back up to attack that resistance level. And to me, this actually paints a very bullish picture. You know, and I think that's why triple tops are not, you know, super respected in the trading. So it depends on what you're looking at, but in this context, yeah, not super respected. Christopher saying, you're always the man, Sammy Love from the USA. Thank you very much, sir. I do appreciate that. Regulatory clarity in U.S. Senate, that's why we're going up. I guess, I don't know. I've never taken any of these kind of regulation discussions particularly seriously because they've never achieved anything up to this point, and they've had plenty of time. They're just a bunch of fucking idiots, really, aren't they? They don't know what they're doing. They've never, you know, studied anything, anything at all. I mean, they can't decide if it's, you know, a security or a commodity or a currency or some other form of property. You know, like it's been very silly for a long time. Maybe they're doing it properly from now, but you know, quite honestly, I don't think that I've seen any government body regulate crypto particularly well. But it's not even their fault. You know, you just cannot regulate like that. Like just the bottom line is that you cannot regulate crypto particularly well because it's such a foreign form of money. You know, like our legacy systems are not built for something so transparent and easy to use. You know, and obviously this is why banks have kind of been in their powerful positions for so long. It's because you fucking need them, you know, and it's because the system is so complex that without them, you know, you can't really survive. You know, crypto is not like that. Crypto is very independent, very sovereign, and it's just not normal. And I think that's why, you know, reception has been one way or the other. But stay safe, mate, Gates. Don't get caught offside, fam. There you go. So, ladies and gents, thank you all very much for tuning in. You know exactly what to do. You've got some pretty cool links in the description to some pretty powerful exchanges. So check them out if you want to, you know, get some free trading capital when you get signed up and start trading. It's just like I said, you can already have a home to trade. That's totally cool. But if you sign up to one of these and start trading on these, you'll get more free money in your account. So it's just free money. You can go back to your home exchange afterwards. But you might find that you like these because they are really strong platforms. Of course, only check them out if you're not from a restricted region. Always check your country's local laws and regulations. Hit up the subscribe, tick the bell, all the good stuff. Hit the likes button, and obviously, yeah, if you want to get inside of our super exclusive 12-week program, then that's going to be this link on screen right here. So we'll ask for some information, and a member of the team will get back to you. Really hope you've enjoyed this one. You know what to do. See you all in the next one. Cheers. Yeah. Yep.